Hey guys, you want to learn how to grow gigantic canna lilies just like this? Well, here are my 5 top tips that are going to help you do just that. All right, so tip number 1, canna lilies are in the ginger or banana type family. So they're native to the tropical regions of Central, South America, okay? So that being said, they need a lot of moisture. All right guys, now this year has been exceptionally rainy. I haven't hardly even had to use the hose at all to water stuff. It just rains so much this year. As you can tell, these plants are absolutely loving it. But look at this, these gigantic leaves, yes, they do like banana leaves. They are related. They take a lot of moisture, okay? So if you live in a very, very, very dry area, place with like no humidity, where like it's gonna be really difficult to grow these things. So definitely, if you don't get a lot of water, these guys need to stay pretty much moist, because again, from the tropics, they can actually grow in standing water in some spots. So which actually leads to a problem in some places like Australia, where they have a tropical climate. These plants would basically just take over and maybe even be classified as an invasive species. Well, thankfully here we get snow, we get lots of cold. These guys aren't going to take over much of anything besides my garden. All right, tip number 2, I've already kind of touched on it. Temperature. Okay, these plants need high temperatures. If you live in a cold area that stays damp and cool, you're not going to have great success growing gigantic canna lilies. Okay, they may do well in a pot, but they're not going to get to be these massive 9 to 10 foot tall plants like I got behind you. So anyways, this is a different variety. It's not the same one we just showed you. So this brings me to my 3rd tip, variety. Okay, so this is a I believe it's a Canna pendiculata, or it used to be classified as Braziliensis because it's from the Amazon up into Central America. However, this plant will not get much taller than this. Okay, so I'm right at 6 feet tall. This is right 5.5 feet tall. This is about as much as they're going to grow. Okay, so variety does play a has a big difference. And think about it with all vegetables. All right, so if you're going to grow some kind of corn or tomatoes or peppers or whatever, the plants are going to be of varying sizes. Okay, so genetics play into that as well. So if you want to grow giant cannas, make sure you have the right variety. All right, tip number 4, compost. All right, these plants are extremely hungry. All right, if you want to grow giant plants, you're going to need to feed your soil. Okay, now look at this. This is my just awesome organic matter dark soil. This is not my native soil. We have a dark, hard red clay. So this has all been worked for years and years. Okay, and just so happened that the giant canna behind you that we showed you in the first scene, that actually came up on its own. It's a volunteer. So, it just, something about volunteer plants, they're always doing better, right? So that plant, I just let it go and it turned into this massive plant in just one growing season thus far. So variety, temperature, heat, humidity, and great soil. See, these are some of the tips you're going to need to grow gigantic canna lilies. So the last thing I'm going to show you is the same variety of plant in a different part of the garden that basically all the tips I've given you so far don't apply, and I'll show you the difference. All right, so take a member of this plant. I remember this one. We're going to go show you another one of the same exact variety and how different it is because of the lack of moisture and compost. All right, so all the tips I've given you to help you grow gigantic canna lilies, well, this is what happens when you don't follow your own advice. Okay, now this plant basically, I had no room for it, so I just kind of put it here. Now this is hard red clay, like I mentioned before. You can see the soil here. This is just rock hard red clay, okay? There's really no compost at all for this. I've been trying to mulch it up a little bit with some grass clippings. However, I don't water this up here. If it rains, it's great. If it doesn't, it's fine. But this is basically what's going to happen if you don't give your plant a lot of compost. If you don't give your plant excess moisture that it needs. Now, granted, it's got the same amount of heat, humidity, all that kind of stuff the other plants are taking advantage of. However, this plant is out in the open, okay? Now, down where I showed you against the side of the house, it gets nice, good morning sun, but however, it gets a lot of shade in the evening. Now, this full blast sun all day long. So these are some of the things that are actually going to be detrimental to growing gigantic cannas, at least in my experience. So let's go ahead and talk about some more things you can do to promote good, solid growth in your cannas. Okay, tip number 5 for growing gigantic cannas just like this. All right, guys, it's really simple. You need to take these spent flower buds, okay, where they're done before they're going to put on some seeds. and prune these guys off, okay? I did a YouTube short about this where I showed you kind of how to do this, so I won't really, go too much detail with that. But as you can tell, once the plant gets a certain height, there we go. And as this seed head is removed, this new leader is going to take over, and it's going to continuously grow taller and taller. So see that? So that's one tip that's going to help these plants get super, super tall. Now, let me show you this right here and tell you a little history. Now these are what the seeds look like if you let them go completely to their mature. Okay, so a lot of cannas have the nickname India shot. So I'm not sure if it's true or not, or if it's just an urban legend, but they say that during the Indian Revolution, whenever the uprisers in India fighting against the British ran out of bullets, that they actually used these in their muskets instead. Now, I don't know if I can really claim that to be true or not, but these things are extremely hard, and I can tell you, if you put that in a musket and somehow use it as a weapon, this could probably put a hurting on somebody. So it might be true, it may not be, but you know what? A little trivia for you. So India shot, if you've ever heard that nickname for these canna lilies, that's why. All right, guys, those are my top 5 tips to grow gigantic canna lilies just like these behind me. All right, so hopefully you use this video as a tool to help you out. Hopefully you have some great results, and I'll see you guys next time here on the hillside. Bye-bye.